Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where we talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Season 2, Episode 8 of Your Honor. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, let's pick up with Michael, kind of playing house with Fia and Rocco, which is really nice, and it's really beautiful getting him to kind of be able to, because he hasn't had to do that since, Adam was a baby, so to be able to do it again, kind of leaning into the grandfather of it all. It's actually really adorable. Fia's like, where's my phone? And he's like, oh, it's kind of in your hand. And it's like, I think for him, it brings a little more happiness to us. Like, because after everything, obviously losing Robin, losing Adam, he felt like his entire world was upside down. Obviously, last episode just dug that even deeper of like, made him feel even more alone, like he had nothing. And Fia and Rocco showing up then changed that. When he was kind of at his lowest, when he needed them most, they ended up being there. A reminder, that you have something to live for, you have something to go for, you do have somebody, you have people who need you or going to rely on you. And so I think it also feels like it's almost like having, it's like, the connection to Adam regardless. So having them close by is kind of that nice connection. And it's like, Adam's not here to be able to look after his family. And yes, they are family, and I'm going to look after them, And so Fia, she's trying to get her GED, or she already did get her GED. I don't remember what she was saying, but basically she does plan on going to law school and stuff. But he was like, the fact of the matter is, I was so nervous I threw up on my shoe. She's like, what's the point of this story? He's like, well, yeah, I ended up passing, so you're going to pass too. But that's not what she's worried about. It's just what the future holds for her next 5 years. It's like, but no one, would they say plan out your next 5 years? That is an interesting point then Michael made. No one plans out, their life is too unpredictable. There's a lot of stuff that's outside of your control. Literally, a war can break out halfway across the world from you. You have no control of that. You have no idea how that will affect the world going forward. There's so many things happening. There's so many people's lives around you, and you have no idea what moves they're going to make and how that may impact you. Just like you don't know what, life can throw you curveballs like it threw her one. Being pregnant, being a single mom because the father of your child was shot and killed. You can't predict for that. You can't plan out for that. Let me plan out 5 years in case I become a single mother who has to raise a child without the father in the life because the father died. You don't plan out for that stuff. And that's kind of the whole point that he was kind of trying to make. So, It's that type of thing that kind of gets asked to you, and I think businesses and in job interviews and even in high school, it's like, oh, well, you see yourself in this certain amount of time. And it's like, life is too unpredictable to fully narrow it down like that because you never know, because you can always get blindsided, and always being able to kind of adjust to those blindsides is a very important part of life because you don't want to be so caught up in, hey, I know exactly what's going on. Because if you focus too much on your plan, when you get hit those curveballs and you're unprepared for it, it shatters everything. And Fia has been throwing quite the curveball. So I kind of went on that tangent, but I just thought it was such an interesting point. I elaborated. I kind of put my own spice to it. I probably read even deeper into it than he meant to. I definitely went further in on that conversation than even he did. But it's just that I don't know, that line of dialogue really resonated with me. Either way, regardless. But Olivia shows up. She made sure to leave when Fia was gone. It's like, hey, good, buddy, old pal. Ryan, you ready to get back to work? He's like, no. The fact of the matter is, I'm not working with you. I told you we're done. It's like, all right, fine. We need someone close to the Baxters. And it's like, will you help me flip Fia? And he's almost like, are you delusional, Olivia? The fact of the matter is, you think I let you turn this 17-year-old girl that's struggling, keeping her head afloat, raising a child. You want me to basically help her flip against her family, which that's a whole complicated notion in itself. He's like, no, I'm going to tell you leave you 2 words. Fuck off. So it's like Olivia is wilding just thinking that's going to happen, but she's so desperate, which I'm still like, there's got to be personal beef between you and the Baxters. This doesn't seem like this is just about justice. This feels like a full-blown vendetta. So that's why I'm like, dude, what is up with you? Why are you so and she even said oh yeah, there's only a certain amount of time. To be fair, it makes sense why she feels like she's even more so on the timetable, because Charlie already let her know about, like, right, that waterfront deal and stuff. So it makes sense why she's like, right, before that even goes down, before they really set in motion everything, before we need to get them before things get going. So it's understandable, but still, like, how fervent and, like, relentless she's been about the Baxters, it just seems like it's got to be a personal vendetta, but who knows? Maybe she's just that intent. Because doesn't she have a slight against her name? Wasn't the whole reason why she was here, and that was a whole conversation between her and Nancy? It's like, you're here because you kind of screwed up, and you're here because you're trying to build your reputation back up. So there is personal motivation behind, like, it might not even just be a vendetta. If it's not that, it might just be like, no, I'm trying to put a name on my, like, if I can help take down the Baxters, that would do a lot to kind of maybe repair my reputation or whatever. So either way, Olivia doesn't take no for an answer. So when Fia comes back, home later on, lo and behold, she's there like, hey, I was like, yo, Olivia, what type of knowledge are you going to drop? Because I kept wondering, and it's something I brought up, I want to say last episode too, when is it going to come up that Adam's the one that actually killed Rocco? Because I think that would break Fia's heart. Because it would make her, it would change everything between her and Adam, because Michael has no intentions of telling her. Jimmy and them haven't told her, because it's like, right, who are we to do that, considering, like, it would kind of potentially change the way she feels about Rocco, because it's like, oh, I'm having the child of the man who killed my brother, accident or not. So that's why I'm like, I don't know how. I just feel like they're going to end up telling her. She's going to find out by the end of the series. And I was worried that, like, Olivia was going to drop that, but it's like, nah. Olivia's like, she knows she needs to keep Fia in enough of a position of make her anti her family, but realize it's like, oh, you got to fight for your grandchild, because Fia, it's like, hey, like, what's this got to do with me? I know my family's terrible, if I'm to fully believe what you said, but it's like, yeah, she knows, but she doesn't want to fully believe it, because she knows her family has been up to some spicy stuff, but to know, like, this level of not even just spicy, terrible, shitty stuff, that's another thing entirely to accept. And as I just said, it's nothing to do with, oh, you see this? This is Kofi Jones's family. The fact of the matter, you want to say it doesn't involve you, it's like, right. Kofi supposedly killed Rocco. Carlo killed Kofi. Then, like, that same week, his family's home blows up with 90% of his family inside the house. No. And it's like, oh, Eugene came to shoot your brother, but ended up killing the father of your child instead. So yes, you're directly involved in all of this. And it's like, right, that's the problem with all of this. Like, this death and destruction caused by your family, it ripples out. The fact of the matter is, it didn't just stop with Kofi's family. It circled its way back, and it was coming after your family, and Adam ended up paying the price for it. So once again, the messed up irony of it all being, obviously this all kind of started with Adam for it to kind of be in there, but even Adam's death wasn't the end. It was all this has been a slow rolling situation that's just been building and building, and it continues to build. And so Olivia's trying to convince her, like, you're doing the right thing. If you turn against your family, the fact of the matter is you will be stopping future victims, because this isn't just about the past. This is about what they're going to do. They're going to hurt so many other people. So I need your help. Michael shows up and is like, oh, they're pretending like they don't know each other, because Michael's almost like, wait, what? She's like, oh, hi, I'm Olivia. Like, I'm trying to present, because she doesn't want Fia to know, like, they have because it could skew things a little bit if Fia finds out, wait, you were working together? Wait, you knew about, but it's like, right, if this is supposedly your first meeting, Michael plays along, but he talks to, well, he's talking to Fia, and Fia's like, right, should I do this? But he's like, no, like, you aren't, like, you're a 17-year-old mother, like, get out there, live your life, figure out your next 5-year plan, because your job isn't to fight crime. Your job is to take care of your son, and that starts by taking care of yourself. So get as far away from the city. Don't get mixed up in your family. Don't let Olivia drag you into all of this, and just kind of go live your life. Very much the same message that he gave Adam, and I think Fia isn't going to do that. I think she's going to kind of sadly follow in Adam's footsteps, where Adam was like, no, like, I can't let this go. I think Fia's the same way, knowing what her family's done and what they're capable of. So, but at the end of the day, we'll have to wait and see. Maybe that won't be the case, considering Michael talks to Olivia and it's like, I'll be the one that, like, just leave Rocco and Fia out of this. And Olivia just kind of looks over, and you're almost like, right. So was the plan always to get Michael, but you knew that Fia would be the soft spot you need to kind of hit to kind of end up dragging him in. I mean, it's a win-win. Fia's probably the easiest way to get close to Jimmy and all that, but she's willing to roll the dice on that. But it's like, right, if you want to help too, Michael, it's not going to be as easy. But yeah, I was fine with either path. But if you want to finally submit, that's fine. That's what I'm still, like I said, iffy on. It could easily be like she did plan this, like, you're gonna say no? Don't worry. Oh, going to prison doesn't threaten you. Like, oh, you got this good life built for yourself, right? What if I throw a wrench in all that by getting Fia involved? Now you have no choice but to accept for her sake, because that's who you are. You know, your life is one thing. You're like, yeah, I'll throw away my life because my life doesn't mean as much. But my essentially my sort of daughter-in-law has a whole life ahead of her with her child, so I'm not going to take that away from either one of them. So either way, Olivia kind of gets her win. Now, how Michael plans on getting close to Jimmy, considering how that family's kind of like towards him, I guess it's like the prospect of using Fia in that regard of like, I don't know. Maybe Michael will reach out in other regards of like, maybe it's like, hey, we're two parents and stuff like that, so maybe that's how Michael will connect to him, or maybe he'll find some other way. He might even, I don't know, maybe have to go back to the Charlie well of it all to try and take advantage of that. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out, what Michael does exactly to kind of work that situation. But other than that, we have the Desire situation. So they've got all the money they need to kind of pay to Roderick. We see that Mo's got an engagement ring. She plans on giving it to her girlfriend. I was like, oh, that's sweet. So the club's about to go popping off. At first, when Chris was there, I was like, wait, is that the same person? I was like, it's I was like, I'm surprised. You brought all the smoke when you were talking to Little Mo last episode about Big Mo not getting away with this, and like now you're back to work. It's like, I guess part of him was either hoping that he could bury the hatchet but couldn't, or like that was just him like laying low, like waiting for the opportunity. Because it's like, oh, I want you to stay here and kind of keep looking after codes. Like, really? That's what I'm stuck on, like guard duty? But it's not until he was outside and he saw one of the balloons that they had put the drugs in, and he was just like, man, fuck this, and walked away. I thought he was just going to leave the place unguarded and then it's going to get jacked. It's like, nah, he rolls through later and the jacks the place. Now, part of me was wondering if like Lil Mo had orchestrated that day, because they like linked up last episode, so I thought maybe they linked up even further, and like, I mean, still doesn't change the fact this Little Mo could still be behind all this. That once again, this could be Chris freestyling on his own, but do notice he ran pretty deep. There was a few people with him. It wasn't like he did this solo, so either he was able to convince other people to join him, or Little Mo helped with that, because there's probably plenty of people who didn't like how shit went down with Little Mo and Big Mo. Plus, a lot of people probably agree with Chris where it's like, yo, Big Mo, she's been like too focused on the club. She ain't really running this gang like she's supposed to. Like a lot of the grievances he brought up to Lil Mo last episode, he might have just convinced a lot of people that work with her to do that. That might have been the crew that was supposed to stay there. That might have been them. The rest of the security went with like her to the club, but it could be that he was able to convince the others. So poor Big Mo, like she got jacked of all that money. Because it wasn't just the club. I think it was also maybe the place they were keeping the money. I don't know if they paid Roderick already, or whether that money was meant to pay Roderick and they had it stashed somewhere. Because it wasn't just the club. It was like, I mean, it wasn't just like that stash house or whatever. There was like another place hit too. So I'm wondering if the money for Roderick was going, because she had a little bit of money in the safe and her ring was taken and a little balloon was left. And it's like, right, Chris is the one behind this. And obviously things are kind of sour between her and her girlfriend, because it's like, yo, I kind of pulled a gun on you when you just randomly showed up, and she's yelling at her, like, I told you to stay home. Like, who told you to come here? Because she was telling Mo, like, hey, just stay. I mean, it sucks because you were riding how you were feeling yourself. Oh, life is so good. The club's going well. Janelle is like performing. She's doing great. It's all awesome. And you're feeling yourself. You're feeling good. The business is successful. Gina's not too receptive. The fact is she had a meeting with someone from her grief meetings. I kept wondering why. I finally found out why I recognized that actress. I was like, why does that actress look so familiar? Maybe there's something else I know her from, but more recently, it's Superman and Lois. She played Allie. Oh, what's her name? Or was it Dorlata or something like that? Or Dorletta? But yeah, she played Allie. I think what kind of threw me for a loop is obviously like as Allie, she mainly, not always, but a lot of times she wore glasses. Plus she had like dirty blonde. Her hair was shorter and it was dirty blonde at the time of Superman and Lois. So her with like no glasses and like longer brunette hair kind of threw me for a loop. But her and Gina starts speaking a little bit, and it's like, right, I'm sorry I did what I did, or said what I said. And it's like, the moment she was bringing up the fact, it's like, yeah, your son, she's like, I'm sorry I called your son a heroin addict. It's like, no, my son was a heroin addict. And the moment she brought that up, I was like, you're going to take advantage of her, like, use her to go up against, like, that way you don't have to directly go after Big Mo. You can get someone else to kind of, cause some spice and some turmoil in that regard. So I don't know, like if she didn't do anything this episode, but I feel like Gina's setting the stage to be making her own moves with her newfound buddy, because it's like, oh, if a heroin dealer moved across, she's like, I would burn that place that across the street from me, I would burn it down. And it's like, oh, we really can be good friends. So I feel like Gina's definitely planning, and she's got some machinations up her sleeve. And when she rolls up on the club, and I love that Big Mo's right-hand dude was like, oh, Miss Baxter, if we knew you were coming through, we would have given security your name. Come on in. Mr. Baxter, looking at Carlo, and it's just that face-to-face between Mo and Big Mo and her, and it's like there's like this, because even she knows she knows Gina ain't all, because earlier, like, Chris was like, oh, she's all bark and bite. It's like, nah, she's got bite. And it's like, oh, here's this drink, and it's like, oh, it must be better than all that malt liquor you drink. It's like, okay. But just further proof of just how much Gina kind of looks down upon them and stuff. And so when the time comes, like, Mo's like takes a swig, her right-hand guy takes a swig, and then Mo proceeds to pour out a little bit. Like, yo, gotta pour one out for the homie. So I don't know if that was in reference to, like, Rudy, or was that just most likely probably Kofi. Probably in that regard, that might have been what that more so was. I was about to say, I don't think it'd be for Rudy. It most likely would probably be in reference to Kofi, especially with Carlo being there. But her conversation with God, what was her name? I want to say it was like Dorletta, but it might not be. It was something like that. That conversation is like, right, don't let your husband get in the way of your children. You only have... Your babies only happen once in a lifetime. The fact of the matter is, you can always find another husband. So, because Gina does blame Jimmy for what happened to Rocco, which I think is a little unfair. You both are excited about getting him the bike and stuff, and it's like, it's just a sad situation played out the way it did. But I also can't tell a mother what she should do about her grief, how she should feel about it. She blames Jimmy. Like, this grief isn't rational. It's just that you feel what you feel. So it's like, right, I blame you for what happened to Rocco. I asked you to, exact vengeance, thinking it would fill that void in my heart, and it didn't make me feel any better. But also, I don't love you anymore. So, and for Jimmy, especially because Jimmy was in his, like, yo, I'm feeling myself. I'm, like, leaning into my gangster shit last episode. Now it's kind of getting smacked in the face by this. He was like, oh, couples struggle all the time with, like, after they lose a child, and for her to just kind of smack him with that, and it felt like his world came crumbling down. But I think for Gina, she just kind of finally felt refreshed, like she was able to kind of unburden herself. And it's like, right, I've been holding back how I truly feel about it, and I blame you. This is your fault. Even though he was like, oh, I do feel like a lot of it's my fault. He wasn't being like, oh, none of it was mine. He's like, no, a lot of it was. But she's like, no, it's completely on you. So I personally was like, oh, that's kind of messed up. But once again, as I said, I can't blame Gina for feeling how she's feeling. So that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, especially with the Carlo angle of him trying so hard to prove himself, because, he's in the suit, running security and stuff like that. His dad's proud of him, which even Gina's like, hey, I know you want to do everything you can to make your dad proud of you, but at the end of the day, you came from me, you're mine. That kind of comes first and foremost. So I can definitely see Carlos is definitely, Fia pushed away from the outside, is on the outside looking in, and just like kind of wants to burn the entire bridge with her family. Feels like she needs to, that it would be the right thing to do. Whereas Carlo's kind of caught between his dad and his mom. He loves his mom. He always been more like his mom. But he wants his dad's approval. So he's kind of stuck in that complicated spot. So
I think in the end of the day, he's going to end up choosing Gina's side, or maybe Jimmy's going to get so frustrated and pissed he ends up ostracizing or pushing Carlo away. That just makes him double down on joining Gina's side. So we'll see. Especially, it's going to be interesting to see where her father, where he plays in what role he ends up playing in all of this, as things kind of break down between Jimmy and Gina. And another side of the episode is picking up with Eugene. It's sad that he's literally in the same situation his brother was in. But you have Lee doing everything she can. But it's like, yeah, the prosecutor, which is, oh God, I'm blanking on his name from Black Lightning. Is that the same actor? I think it is. I think that's Jeff's best friend from Black Lightning. Jefferson? I want to say that's not Jefferson. Henderson. Wasn't it Henderson? Yeah, it is the same actor. His name is David Gupton. So I was like, right, I thought so. I was like, I thought that was him. So, but tangents and all that aside, Lee's trying to talk to him about the Eugene situation. Obviously, there's extenuating circumstances. She tries to be like, yo, we don't know for sure that he did it, because it's like, considering like who the source is and stuff like that, it's the Baxter family. Plus, at the end of the day, like, they're the kind of only real witnesses that everything that kind of run down. I don't even know if there's any surveillance footage that showed Eugene doing it. It's like, right, they kind of informed the police. The police were the ones doing the investigation, same ones that ended up trying to come after him later on, in particular Rudy. And we all know how that played out last episode. So it is a situation of she's trying to, spin this towards trying to get Eugene out of his circumstances, considering it was like, yo, the last thing we want is him locked up, because if he goes away, like, who's to say the situation won't play out like Kofi? I mean, Carlo was in jail so they could get to him, but the whole point is also he's in a position where they keep him out of sight and out of hearing range and seeing range is kind of the whole point. So other than that, the DA or whatever won't budge on it. He's like, yeah, he's gonna go like 30 with a chance of parole, but it's like, that's kind of the best shot. Well, if you want to kind of lessen that, he'll have to give us some unknown desire. But it's like, he's not really affiliated. But it's like, yeah, they were the only ones he could turn to when everything went literally kablooey. When his brother died, when the rest of his family died, he had no one else to turn to. But especially because it's like, oh yeah, he was staying at Lil Mo's place because he had nowhere else to be and nowhere else to go. But for him, it's like, I can't go. And like, both him and Lee know what time it is. It's like, if he rats on them, they will find a way to kill him in prison. It's like, well, he could always end up, we'll keep him isolated and make sure he's protected and stuff. But it's like, no, that's still a no-go, because he's not even going to, Eugene's not going to take a chance on that. So she brought the deal back. And obviously he said no, but she plans on doing everything she can. So she ends up pulling the trigger on what she knows. It's like, cool, I know about this stuff that Michael did. She found out about all that last season. So it's like, cool, I'm going to use that as leverage, because, you only know about, yes, Michael went into prison, but you don't know about all the stuff he did last season to protect Adam. And in that process, he did some stuff that could blow back on the like DA and stuff, like the prosecutor's office. Because it's like, right, he's not the DA, he's just the prosecutor. But it's like the DA's office in general could blow back on you, because every case that Michael ever proceeded over could get open and it'd be like a massive like shit fest. Of dealing with that. So it's like, all right, I can get it down to like 10 years, parole 3 years, but basically this is her like she took this shot, like this is as good as it's going to get. So Lee brings it back to Eugene and it's like, hey, good behavior, you could get out by 3. But for him, it's like, I won't even be able to say why I did it. I would have to admit guilt over it, which, yes, he did do it, killing Adam. But it's like, there's extenuating circumstances. I was popping off on the guy who killed my brother and killed my entire family. Like, his family killed my family. So, but it was more so about the Kofi of it all, because it's like, I can at least get you. Because he's the one that kind of jump-started all of this. So, with that being said, though, Eugene's like, nah, fuck that. I'm not taking it. I'm going to have my day in court. I'm going to let everyone know my story. Now, what the ramifications of that will be in the long run, we'll have to wait and see. But it's definitely going to be interesting to see how Lee prepares for this situation. Because, like, if this goes wrong, he will be going not only 30 years with parole, he will go 30 with no parole. He will be 30 to life, and it's like, oh, there's a chance he might have died in prison before. He will die in prison if, like, this kind of goes down the way it's kind of being set up to be. So, and he's like, yeah, even the prosecutor's like, I don't want to do that, but it's my job. If the time comes, I'm going to have to do it regardless of my personal feelings. So we'll ultimately have to wait to see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.